everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrea. It's nice to have you guys here. Today I've got a bit of a special video. I've never done a video like this before. As those who've been following my channel for a while know, I am a huge proponent and advocate of bullet journaling. I love my bullet journal. I'm going on 2 years now. My bullet journals have definitely changed a bit, and I'm wanting to, for the next one, go almost a little bit even more minimal. I'm not calling this a minimalism bullet journal because I don't always stick to a minimalist approach. Sometimes I just use a black pen and a pink or other colored Tombow brush pen, and that's it. Other times I love using stickers and washi tape and all that stuff. But I just have been kind of feeling like I did want to streamline my bullet journal a little bit and scale it back a bit, which I thought was a good opportunity to show kind of how to do just a really basic bullet journal. I have a lot of people who comment on my bullet journals or comment on Instagram pictures of my bullet journal saying things like they'd love to start one, but they don't know where to start. They feel like they don't like their handwriting or they can't doodle. And if you watch a lot of the bullet journal videos on YouTube, you can see some really amazing ones where people are doodling and drawing, and it's almost like an artist's sketchbook combined with a planner. I've never done that. I love stickers, I love washi tape, and that's about all I use to decorate. I do like stencils, but stencils can sometimes be too time-consuming some weeks. So I have them, but I don't always use them. So I thought it would be good to do a bullet journal and film my process of starting a new journal, what carries over, what doesn't. I've kind of changed my perspective on that and just create a kind of entry-level, beginner's basic bullet journal approach so that if you've been wanting to get into this but you just haven't quite known where to start or have felt a bit overwhelmed or intimidated or daunted about starting a bullet journal, I'm hoping this video will help you. At the end of the day, the bullet journal, the reason I love the bullet journal is because it is so flexible and it can be what you want it to be. Let me get the camera readjusted and we'll get right into starting a new bullet journal. I'm excited. Fair warning, this video could get long, but I want this to be a fairly comprehensive what it really is like when I start a bullet journal. So yeah, fair warning, get a cup of tea or, like me, iced coffee in a really pretty mug or any mug, and let's get going. Okay, so I don't have a fancy camera arm that lets you have a straight bird's eye view of my bullet journal, so this is the best I can do. This is my old bullet journal, which is in this really nice folio case. This was part of a holiday set from Too Faced Cosmetics. Inside, I just have a basic journal, so you definitely don't need a fancy case. At the end of the day, all you need is a notebook and a pen. That's it. I've always used nicer notebooks. This is a Ted Baker notebook. It's the second Ted Baker notebook that I've used, but you don't have to spend a lot. I've also used 5-pound notebooks from Paper Chase. You do not have to use the Leuchtturm, if I'm pronouncing that right, journals that everyone in the bullet journaling community absolutely loves. I'd say as long as the paper is not too terribly thin, but you can see looking through my old one, there is bleed through. And that's never been something that I really cared about. It's all personal preference, so you can use the cheapest notebook you can find and you're good to go. For my new bullet journal, I've decided to use this one, which was a $8 notebook from the Nordstrom rack. I highly recommend the Nordstrom rack for journals and stationery. You can find some really nice quality ones at a discounted price, which is great. I loved this one because it's got the kind of peachy blush pink binding on the spine, which I can already tell is going to get dirty as I'm using it, but I don't care because journals were meant to be used. And then it's got this faux marble with rose gold, and then it says make your mark in the bottom here. I also like this because when it opens up, the pages are actually a really good size, so you can see that it's about the same height, but each page is wider, so I'm gaining like an extra inch on the side of each page. So I think that will be really nice in order to help me keep 1 week, kind of a 1 week spread on 2 pages and not have to use multiple pages per week. I also liked this one because, as you can see, it tends to lie fairly flat. I mean, this page wants to come up, some of these pages want to come up a little bit, but others it really will lie flat. So for the most part, I feel like I can get this journal to lie pretty flat. And then it also has the little ribbon for page marking. I also like using paper clips. This is a decorative one that I got in a Ted Baker stationery set, but you can find really cute paper clips like this for super cheap from a variety of places. In terms of starting, what I like to do is, and sometimes I will use sticky notes, get my little jar of sticky notes, page flags. I've got my personal information at the bottom here, but for title page I like having name, I like having the date that I start the bullet journal, so I'll have the date I started and the date that I ended. So I'm gonna design my title page later. Now what I always do before I start drawing stuff is I map out my bullet journal, and this is where the sticky notes come in handy. So this page will be the key, and then I'll go through. Okay, so I then had some quotes for a few pages. I never filled these in all the way, so I think I'm going to give myself 1 spread of quotes. So I'll take another sticky note, write out quotes, and then I'll draw an arrow down to indicate this page and an arrow over to indicate that page. So this tells me these 2 pages are going to be my quotes page. Then I flip the page of the new journal and the page of the old journal, and I keep flipping until I get to something new in the old journal. So now we've got what is called in bullet journal terminology the future log, and it will start in whatever month I started in. So this journal was started in September, so it's September through September. I'm going to draw out future log on these 2 pages. And then we started getting into my collections. My collections have always been pretty simple. I have like drawn bookshelves for books I want to read. When I got to this one, I was too lazy. I didn't want to draw out, sketch out a fancy doodle of a bookshelf with books. I just feel like that's become something that doesn't really need to live in my bullet journal. So I'm going to keep flipping until I get to something that I think I do want. I had hashtags to remember, which again, I never really filled out. I feel like, again, maybe the bullet journal isn't the best place for this. I had my social media stats. I'm not copying this over because I filled this in. I now have a digital copy of this on my computer, and that's probably where it's going to live from now on, because again, it doesn't have to live in my bullet journal. That's something that I'm happy to have on my computer. I was doing a blog and a YouTube brain dump. I do think I want this because I think that that can still be helpful. So I think I'm going to do that. So that's going to be those 2 pages. So far, I'm several pages into this bullet journal, but I've only gone a little bit into this bullet journal. I had morning and evening routines, and I am going to do these. But then you can see I also had self-care routine. Never copied this over from the previous bullet journal to this one. I was going to create a spread for job prep stuff. Never did it. I was going to recopy a worry tree. I never did that. I did draw out or write out 5-minute meditations. Never used this page. So I think what I'm going to do is create a 2-page spread of general self-care, but I'm going to do those slightly differently from how I was doing them in here, and I'll show you that when I get going. And then I had my content planning, but I now have a separate calendar book that I use for content planning, so I don't need this in my current one. And then I was straight into monthly layout. And so now we're into the regular bullet journal. So I'm going to flip a page. This will be the June spread, and this will be the weekly spread. And looking back through, I don't think there's really any other collection that I'm desperate to have. I was doing a declutter challenge at some point in here, and this can stay in here. I don't have to copy this over. As I get rid of more stuff, I'll just come back in here, and that's fine. So now I'm going to go back and design my key. So this is where I'm going to start doing some time lapses. So I will do time lapses as I draw out each page, and then I'll come back and walk you through what some of the things mean and that sort of thing. But this video will be 5 hours long if I don't start doing some time lapses. Let's do that. Okay, so now it's pretty much done. I can get rid of my little sticky notes because I don't need them to identify the pages anymore. Sticky notes are definitely your friend when you're setting up a bullet journal. I use them every time I do, and it really helps me to figure out how I want things laid out. They're especially helpful if you know that you do want to put in a lot of collections and have out, lists of different things. If you're going to front load your bullet journal with a lot of those, then having the sticky notes to kind of lay that out and help you decide how you want things together and where you want things to go within each page. Sticky notes, post-it notes are really helpful for that. I'm going to do a kind of side-by-side comparison for what I kept and what I didn't. So the key, I really am no longer color coding. So I was color coding my tasks, not really doing that anymore. So instead of having the color coding, I've just added in, I am starting to write out little stars or asterisks for things that are important. I've got a very badly drawn light bulb for ideas, and then a heart for things that are personal priorities or self-care. Then I've streamlined my quotes and words that matter. I took over some of my things that were on post-it notes, and I'm just going to keep filling this in. There's some that I always like having in here, but then each journal has a slightly different selection, and it's kind of quotes that meant something to me at the time that I was working within that bullet journal. So I'm going to let this kind of naturally fill in on its own. Then I've got my future log, a little bit different than the old one, but still the kind of same basic layout. This worked out so that this is all the rest of 2018 and this is the start of 2019. I only went up to May because I will probably finish this bullet journal sometime around November, December anyway. This one I had started in September and I've made it to May. So I never make it a full year in each bullet journal. I tend to make it like 6 to 8 months. So I don't need too much of 2019 because I'll be starting a new bullet journal before we get close to March, April, May, and I won't really be needing to write down things. But I have the notes section so that if something does come onto my schedule for June or July of 2019, I do have a space in here to write it, even though I don't have a separate box for those months. And then I've just put in some of the dates and tasks that I'm aware of, like major holidays, family birthdays. I keep all of these dates in my phone anyway, but I do like having a hard copy place where I can write down important dates and remember that way if my phone isn't with me or if my phone isn't working, whatever, I still have a list of all of those days. I've got my blog and YouTube brain dump. I'm doing this post-it note style, so I will later when I have more time, because you didn't need to watch a time lapse of it, I will copy out the ideas from this bullet journal into this bullet journal. And then the idea is, the nice thing is about using the post-it notes, as post-it notes fill up and as I cross things off, so once I cross off everything that's on this little post-it note, I can take this one off, put a new one on, and I don't have to draw a new page for these. So this is just the general dashboard for brain dumps. The big notes are going to be for just general ideas. The little mini ones will be for recurring series that I want to do on each platform. So for example, on my YouTube channel, I do fibro chats, so I can have one post-it note be all fibro chat videos. Another post-it note can be all PhD school advice video ideas. So that's what the little ones are for. And then the bigger post-it notes are just for ideas for each that aren't part of a category or a recurring series, and they're just like a standalone idea. And then kind of the same idea for the morning and evening routine. So I did have those written out, and I didn't want to take up time with a time lapse of you watching me copy it, but basically I will just copy what's on these 2 pages onto these post-it notes. I might decorate it a bit more with some washi tape, but then the idea is the next time I go to create a new bullet journal, I can just peel these up and then stick them down in the new bullet journal, and it will save me time going forward. It's something that I've just noticed as I've been working on this and have created new bullet journals a few times now. It's always annoying when there's a collection, which is what these kind of pages are called in bullet journal terms. Whenever there's a page like this that is always the same and that I want in every bullet journal, it's just a pain in the backside to have to copy this out. So I'd rather write it down on a post-it note that can then just move and travel from one bullet journal to the next. And then same thing with self-care. So I'm working on refining my self-care routine, but there's going to be a morning list, a daytime list, and an evening list, as well as a weekly list. And then I've got this breathing mantra, and so I can put other little post-it notes for other breathing mantras, or like quick 5-minute meditations if I come up with a good one. I like this one. It's just simple: inhale the future, exhale the past. So then the next time I start a new bullet journal, these post-it notes can, again, like my morning and evening routines, can just move with me. Then I've got my June spread, which I kept kind of simple. You might have noticed as in the time lapse, I did kind of mess up a little bit. I thought I was going to have the grid all on one page, but there was no way that I could get, and I was gonna do a Saturday-Sunday split, but I couldn't get 2 decent sized squares out of what was left. So Friday just became extra big, and Saturday and Sunday got pushed over onto this page, but that's fine. Mistakes happen. It's never going to go exactly how you thought it would, so you just learn to run with those mistakes. And then I've got a small section down here for memories, so anything that happens in the month of June that I want to remember, I will write it down. Brain dump, so kind of like a task list, but my monthly, it just tends to be lots of random ideas, so it is more of a brain dump than an actual task list. And then monthly favorites, so I like having a space where anything that I'm loving that month, I can write it down, so that when I go to do a monthly or seasonal favorites video, or just for future, looking back on, I've got it all recorded there. And then I've got my weekly spread, which I'm also keeping pretty simple. So I've got my days of the week, so Monday through Sunday. Weekend gets split up at the end, and then we've got the grids for the weekdays. This kind of helps me visually differentiate between the weekdays and the weekend. Oh, I forgot to write in, this is notes and ideas. So any random thought or list or whatever can get written down there. And then tasks are broken up. I'm using the priority matrix. I haven't filled in this or my brain dump for the month because as I am filming this, it is June 1st, but I tend to not do my weekly planning until like Saturday or Sunday. So I will sit down and go through my list from this week, figure out what I did, what I didn't do, what of here needs to transfer over to here, and I'll sit and have a think about my brain dump for the month of June and what I want to attempt to do this month. And then from here, it just kind of will go week by week. This will probably be next week's weekly spread. There might be some collections, some ideas that pop up that get their own pages. If I go to meetings, I can take notes. Each bullet journal is just a kind of living extension of my life and my brain, so it's very fluid and flexible. As I'm starting to develop stuff for my freelance business, there'll be pages devoted to that. When I was still in grad school, I would have notes from meetings with my advisor and stuff. That way, everything is in one book and not scattered through a bunch of notebooks and journals and things like that. And then one last thing to do, which I almost forgot about, is creating my back page sticky note dashboard. So because I do rely on sticky notes a lot, I like to have different types of post-it notes and page flags that I can use in the back of my bullet journals. I also have a full page sticky of the priority matrix so that I don't forget how to use that. So I can just put all of these over there. See if that, yeah, that works. That works okay. I also like having pages in the back to use as test pages. So you can see when I was starting this bullet journal, I was testing out the two pens that I use the most to see how it transfers. Whenever I get a new pen, I like to do pen practice and just see how the ink is. And I also had a line here where I was counting out the lines on the page so that if I did want to do any kind of spread that involved doing a vertical list of the days of the month, I knew that I had 35 lines, including the first and the last. So saving a couple pages at the back of your bullet journal for that is sometimes a good idea. I never fill my bullet journals up all the way, so I'm not gonna like draw it in right now, but that is kind of what those will be used for. And then I'm going to put my ribbon at the monthly spread and my little bow paper clip on the weekly spread. And there we go. That's my new bullet journal. I hope you enjoyed that. I have a feeling this video got really long, so I'm going to keep this outro really short. If you have any questions about starting a bullet journal or about my bullet journal in particular, please leave them in the comments below. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram. Those links are also down below if you want to chat privately and have questions. Definitely check out my playlist of other videos and the other links that I'm going to include in the description box to help you as you go forward with your bullet journal. I think if you are someone who has tried pre-printed planners, has tried doing everything digitally, and still finds that you're struggling to be organized and be consistent with a planning system, give bullet journaling a try. It was the one thing that I hadn't tried yet. I'd tried different types of pre-printed planners, weekly, daily, different formats, different brands, different styles. I could never stick with it, and so I would waste half the notebook, half the planner because I wasn't using it. And there are some things that I keep track of in my iCal on my iPhone in terms of like appointments and events, but I don't keep track of like tasks there. So that wasn't covering everything. And so the bullet journal is the first time that I've been able to be really, really consistent with something and use it almost every day. And then if there's a time like December when, school is done within the first week and then there's really nothing to do until the holidays, and so I don't have a lot of tasks and things to keep track of, I use it a little bit less, but then I can just pick up on the next blank page. I know some people will do all the weekly spreads for the whole month. At the start of the month, I do my weekly spreads 1 week at a time because some weeks I need a spread that's really detailed and really structured, and other weeks I just need a task list and then some boxes for the days of the week, and that's about it. So I really love that with the bullet journal, it's very personalized and it's very about you as the user. So it is what you want and need it to be. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm gonna shut up. If you have any questions, do leave them in the comments below or reach out to me, private message on one of my other platforms. I hope you all are having a wonderful day or evening, whatever applies, whatever time of day it is when you're watching this. Thank you very much for watching this one. I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye.